So today we are going to focus on section 34.3. It's kind of a longer section, so we are only going to do one today. It's called Rome's Conquest of the Italian Peninsula, 509 BCE to 264 BCE. And the picture there at the bottom, it says in 458 BCE, the Roman Senate made Lucius Quintus Cincinnatus dictator or supreme ruler to lead the defense of the city during an attack. After defeating the army, Cincinnatus willingly gave up power and returned to his farm. His sense of duty and respect for the Republic made Cincinnatus one of Rome's great heroes. And there's a test question about him if I remember correctly. So Rome's first period of expansion included more than 200 years of almost constant warfare. During this time, Rome gradually took control of the entire Italian peninsula. After the last Etruscan king was overthrown in 509 BCE, the Romans began to expand their territory and influence. In 493 BCE, Roman leaders signed a treaty or agreement with their Latin neighbors to the south. The treaty said, "There shall be peace between the Romans and all the communities of Latins as long as heaven and earth endure." These new allies agreed to band together against their common enemies. During the next 100 years, the Romans fought a number of wars against the Etruscans, as well as against tribes living in hills around Rome. Then in 390 BCE, Rome nearly came to an end. A band of Gauls, a warlike people from the north, crushed a Roman army and surged into the city. Most of Rome's people fled into the countryside. The Gauls looted the city and burned most of it down. And looted means to steal. So they broke into shops and marketplaces and stole everything. So it continues on the next page. With the city in ruins, the Romans considered fleeing. Instead, they bravely decided to start over. They rebuilt their city and surrounded it with walls. They also built up their army. Before long, Roman soldiers were on the march again. During the 300s BCE, Rome conquered the Etruscans and many neighboring tribes. To the south, they battled a people called the Samnites and several Greek city-states. By 275 BCE, Rome's conquest of the Italian peninsula was complete. But expansion came at a great cost. Romans had been fighting for 2 centuries, so 200 years, and the Gauls had once destroyed their capital city. As Rome's territory expanded, the city had to keep a large permanent army to defend it and the conquered lands. As a result, more and more Romans were forced to serve in the army. Most of the soldiers were plebeians. Remember, these are the poor people. Many plebeians resented this fact, leading to civil unrest. Roman citizens were not the only ones who paid a cost for Rome's expansion. Rome allowed the people of some defeated cities to become Roman citizens, but other cities were not treated so well. Many received more limited privileges, such as the ability to trade with Rome. And Roman allies had to pay Roman taxes and supply soldiers for Roman armies. By 264 BCE, Rome had more citizens and well-trained soldiers than any other power in the Mediterranean world. But very soon, the Romans would face their greatest challenge. So if you look at section 34.3 in your ISN, at the beginning of the column, you write down the dates that the first period of expansion existed. And then you're answering 2 questions. Bullet points are fine. How were the Romans able to take control of the Italian peninsula? So what were the steps they did to take over? And number 2, who might have had a negative view of Roman expansion during this period and why? And there's a couple of groups of people who were not happy during this expansion. For example, people who were conquered would not have been happy. They had to serve in the army, they had to pay taxes, they were not treated as citizens. But there's other people who weren't happy either. So a bullet point of who was not pleased during this expansion. And that's all for today.